Remus Lupin is one of the most beloved characters in the wizarding world, but he is also one who shouldered some of the heaviest burdens. Today we explore the life of Lupin and how it came to be marked by tragedy, and how Lupin, and those around him, chose to challenge it. You all know Remus Lupin as Harry's best defence against the dark arts professor. Not that there was particularly stiff competition. Nonetheless, Lupin's teaching style at Hogwarts was a breath of fresh air when he was introduced in the third story, as proven by his legendary boggart lesson.
Ridiculous!
Lupin's wisdom and serenity quickly turned him into a mentor for Harry, encouraging his passion for defence against the dark arts and teaching him lessons far beyond his years. Not only does Lupin teach Harry how to produce the highly advanced Patronus charm, a spell that will protect him from the ghastly magical creatures, the Dementors, but he also helped Harry reconcile his own personal tragedies, turning them into strengths.
Expecto Patronum!
And it wasn't long before we learnt that Lupin's connection to Harry went far deeper than just being his teacher, when it was revealed that he was one of Harry's father's best friends.
And your father, James, on the other hand, he had a certain, shall we say, talent for trouble. The talent, rumour has it, he passed on to you. You're more like them than you know, Harry. In time, you'll come to see just how much.
Despite coming across as such a talented, influential teacher that his students looked up to, there was another part of Lupin that cast a shadow over his whole life. This was the thing that cost him his job, held him back from relationships, and led to him living a life off the beaten track. Remus Lupin was a werewolf. Werewolves were pariahs in the wizarding community. Once bitten by a werewolf on a full moon, a wizard or witch would become one themselves, which involved a painful transformation every month into a vicious creature, far removed from their own sense of self. Interestingly, if someone were to be attacked by a werewolf in their human form, like Bill Weasley was, they would not become a fully fledged werewolf, but might develop a few wolfish characteristics, like a fondness for rare meat.
Just remember, Fleur, Bill takes his steaks on the raw side now.
Within the wizarding world, the stigma around becoming a werewolf was enormous. Those who suffered this fate were so shunned that most dropped out of society almost completely. The Ministry of Magic could never figure out how to handle the werewolf population, debating whether they would be considered human or bestial, and should the Beast Division or Being Division of the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures deal with them. One measure the Ministry came up with was the Werewolf Registry, but it was hardly effective. Werewolves were supposed to enter their name and personal details, but many did not, especially the newly bitten, who wanted to hide their werewolf status to try to avoid being ostracised. Lupin himself often kept a low profile for this reason. So how did Lupin become a werewolf? To answer that, we need to go back to his childhood. In his youth, life was relatively simple. Lupin's father was a wizard named Lyle Lupin, an expert in non-human spirituous apparitions including poltergeists and boggarts, and his mother, Hope, was a muggle. Yet Remus grew up under the shadow of an ever-growing threat. By the time that he was 4 years old, dark magical activity was steadily increasing. Unbeknownst to most, Voldemort had begun to rally his Death Eaters and recruit dark creatures, such as werewolves, to help overthrow the Ministry of Magic. To tackle the threat, the Ministry asked experts on such creatures to help them. When Lupin's father Lyle was called in, he encountered the notorious werewolf Fenrir Greyback, who had been brought in for questioning about the murder of 2 Muggle children. Greyback refused to admit that he was a werewolf and tried to pretend that he was just a vagrant Muggle. This is where Lyle made his big mistake. He saw through Greyback's lies and tried to tell the questioning committee, who just laughed at him. He lost his temper, declaring werewolves were soulless, evil, deserving nothing but death. Greyback was released and fled, but he remembered Lyle's words and sought his revenge. Known for preying on the young, Greyback took out his revenge on Lyle's son, breaking into the family home shortly before Remus's 5th birthday and attacking him, changing his life forever. In a cruel twist of fate, Lyle's outburst sparked a chain of events leading to his own son suffering the very same prejudices. After his transformation, Lupin's family had to move around a lot, and Lupin was discouraged from playing with other children. However, there was one place where Remus found a consistent home: Hogwarts. Thanks to a friendly invitation by the always open-minded Albus Dumbledore. There, he found not 1, but 3 best friends: James Potter, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew. These three stood by Remus when they discovered the reason for his monthly disappearances, lovingly nicknamed his very little problem, and decided to try and make his life a tad easier. The group realised that they would be safe to be around Remus if they too took on a magical form, so became Animagi. The lack of judgment and humour built around this friendship gave Lupin a new lease of life, and even a sly nickname referencing his condition, Moony. As for the group as a whole, they dubbed themselves the Marauders, giving themselves new monikers. There was James the Stag, known as Prongs, Sirius the Dog, known as Padfoot. Finally there was Peter the Rat, known as Wormtail. Using humour to conquer the darker corners of life would be a lesson Lupin would carry through into his adulthood and teach to others. After all, the first spell we see Lupin teach his class, Ridiculous, is a piece of magic born from learning to laugh at your fears.
Come on, wand at the ready, Ron, wand at the ready.
Ridiculous!
Yes! You see? Very good, very good.
The Marauders' creativity led to other masterful pieces of magic that helped Lupin, and even future Hogwarts generations. Yes, the famous Marauders map that encouraged people to solemnly swear they were up to no good was founded so that the quartet could roam Hogwarts Castle freely, finding secret exits and keeping an eye on roaming members of staff. The making of the Marauders map would pave the path for future adventurers, such as Fred and George Weasley, and soon after, James's son, Harry Potter himself, who would end up finding it extremely useful.
What's this rubbish?
What's this rubbish, he says. That there is the secret to our success.
So, although Remus found happier days at Hogwarts, his adult life was often marred by his condition. Away from the safety of the castle, he found it difficult to secure employment. He couldn't stay in one place for too long, and it even hampered his relationships.
You know the man you truly are, Remus! This heart is where you truly live! This heart here!
Thankfully for Lupin, there were things that could help him live an easier life, such as kind friends and a healthy supply of Wolfsbane potion, a concoction that could calm down his wolfish transformations. And the support of Albus Dumbledore would give Lupin a new family, an important placement in the resistance group, the Order of the Phoenix. Here, he would meet his future wife, Tonks, with whom he would go on to have a son, Teddy, Harry's godson with the ability to change his appearance at will, just like his metamorphmagus mother.
My husband, the Joker.
After all, Remus was a tremendously clever and talented wizard, despite the trials he had to overcome. Lupin soon learnt to put that energy into encouraging others who also struggled with self-belief and felt like outsiders. And we're not just thinking about Harry.
Ridiculous!
Wonderful, Devil, wonderful, incredible, okay.
Despite his life being blighted by his affliction, there were moments of joy for Remus. In a lot of ways, he broke the mould for what life as a werewolf should look like. Yes, he spent many years living on the fringes of society, but that wasn't his entire story. Unlike the life of Fenrir Greyback, who chose to inflict vicious cruelty on the world, Lupin spent a lot of his time putting kindness back into it.
Eat. You'll feel better.
Quite frankly, there was an awful lot going on for this kind, clever and talented wizard, more than he probably ever realised, and that defiance was so much stronger than the glow of any full moon.